Sir, do not lie down. Dominic Hale stopped beside his bed at exactly 1:47 in the morning, one hand already reaching for the edge of the charcoal comforter. For several seconds, nobody moved. Naomi Bennett stood on the opposite side of the mattress with a clean-fitted sheet gathered in her hands, fully aware that she had just given an order to a man nobody in the Hale estate ordered around. Dominic slowly turned toward her. At 41, he had built his reputation on control, but months of broken sleep had carved exhaustion into his face. His blue eyes were red at the edges, his dark hair slightly disordered, and the expensive white shirt beneath his black vest looked less polished than it had 12 hours earlier. What did you say? Naomi swallowed. She had worked in the mansion for 9 days. 9 days was not enough time to earn trust, and certainly not enough time to challenge the white mafia boss standing 10 feet away. But she looked back at the bare mattress and knew she could not pretend she had seen nothing. Please do not lie down yet. Dominic glanced at the clock, then back at her. You have 10 seconds to explain yourself. Naomi placed the sheet on a nearby chair. I was changing the bedding like Mrs. Price asked. When I turned the mattress cover back, I noticed this. She pointed toward the lower edge. Dominic stepped closer. Noticed what? The stitching. His expression hardened with impatience. My stitching is keeping me awake. I did not say that. Naomi kept her voice steady. I said something about this mattress is wrong. Dominic stared at her. The bedroom around them was almost unnaturally perfect. Blackout curtains covered the tall windows. The thermostat held the room at 67 degrees. A white noise machine whispered near the wall. 3 different pillows rested on an upholstered bench because his physician had suggested testing different support. Every detail had been adjusted in the hope that Dominic might sleep longer than 2 uninterrupted hours. Nothing had worked. Naomi ran one finger several inches above the seam without disturbing it. I worked housekeeping at a luxury hotel for 6 years before coming here. I have stripped and remade more beds than I could count. Expensive mattresses are not all identical, but the finishing usually tells you what you are handling. Dominic folded his arms. And what is mine telling you? That somebody wants it to look more expensive than it is. Silence settled across the room. Naomi showed him a faint line near the fabric edge where a manufacturer label appeared to have been removed. The thread around one section also differed slightly in color and spacing from the rest. Small things, almost meaningless things. But housekeeping was built on noticing what other people walked past. Dominic leaned closer. His exhaustion briefly gave way to concentration. Victor personally ordered this mattress. Then I would ask Mr. Shaw about it. Dominic looked at her sharply. You are accusing my estate manager of something after 9 days in my house. No, sir. Naomi met his eyes. I am telling you this does not look like the mattress you think you bought. Dominic straightened. Somewhere beyond the bedroom, the mansion clock marked the quarter hour. Naomi expected him to dismiss her. Instead, he looked at the bed where he had spent months staring into darkness. Then back at the maid everyone expected to remain invisible. What do you want to do? Naomi drew a slow breath. Check the seam. How? She glanced toward the housekeeping card outside the door. Carefully, Dominic studied her for another long moment. And if you are wrong? Naomi looked again at the uneven stitching. Then you lose 10 minutes, and I apologize. And if you are right? Naomi's expression did not change. Then somebody switched your mattress. 10 days earlier, Dominic Hale had watched sunrise arrive from the leather sofa in his library for the 4th morning that week. A cup of coffee sat untouched on the table beside him, cold enough that a pale film had formed across the surface. He had gone to bed shortly after midnight, fallen asleep for perhaps 40 minutes, then opened his eyes with the same restless awareness that had followed him for months. By 2 in the morning, he had abandoned the bedroom entirely. The problem was no longer simply feeling tired. Dominic could function tired. He could conduct meetings, review accounts, and make decisions while running on less rest than most people would tolerate. What he could not tolerate was having no explanation. Dr. Andrew Keller had examined him repeatedly. Nothing obvious in the medical evaluations explained why his sleep remained so severely disrupted. Stress was the simplest possibility, and Dominic certainly had enough of it, but he disliked explanations that could not be measured. The household had tried everything reasonable. Evelyn Price changed the bedroom temperature. Blackout curtains replaced the original drapes. Evening coffee disappeared. Electronics were removed from the nightstand. New pillows arrived in boxes large enough to furnish a hotel. Victor Shaw eventually recommended a custom mattress designed specifically around Dominic's preferences. It cost more than some people earned in several months. Dominic slept badly on that too. Naomi Bennett entered the Hale estate during the middle of this exhausting routine. On her first morning, Evelyn walked her through the service corridors, laundry room, guest wing, and staff kitchen before stopping outside the main staircase. "Mr. Hale values discretion," she said. Naomi nodded. "Understood. And after midnight, you do not disturb him unless he calls for assistance." Naomi glanced toward the second floor. "Does he work late?" Evelyn hesitated. "He does not sleep much." Naomi did not ask another question. At 32, she had spent 6 years working housekeeping in an upscale Manhattan hotel before moving into private household work. She knew that wealthy homes had rules just as hotels did, except private rules were rarely printed on laminated cards. You learn them by listening. For the first 3 days, Naomi barely saw Dominic. She noticed evidence of him instead. A lamp burning beneath the library door at 3 in the morning. A breakfast tray requested before sunrise. A suit jacket left over a study chair while the rest of the mansion slept. On her 4th morning, she entered the library shortly after 7 to collect empty glasses and stopped. Dominic was asleep on the leather sofa. No blackout curtains. No white noise machine. No carefully selected pillow. His head rested against the arm of the couch, one hand loose beside him, morning sunlight beginning to reach across the carpet. Naomi quietly backed out and closed the door. 52 minutes later, Dominic emerged. Evelyn met him in the hallway. "You slept." He looked almost irritated by the observation. Apparently, Naomi said nothing, but the detail stayed with her. 2 days later, Marcus Cole returned with Dominic from Manhattan. While Naomi arranged flowers in the entry hall, she heard Marcus tell Evelyn that Dominic had slept through almost the entire drive home. The trip had taken more than an hour. That afternoon, Naomi found Evelyn checking the bedroom curtains. "Can I ask you something?" Naomi said. Evelyn looked over. "What is it?" Naomi chose her words carefully. "Does Mr. Hale have trouble sleeping everywhere?" Evelyn frowned. "What do you mean?" "He slept in the library. Mr. Cole said he slept in the car." Naomi glanced toward the immaculate bedroom beyond them. "But every morning I come upstairs. This bed looks like somebody fought with the sheets all night." Evelyn followed her gaze. For the first time, the question seemed to settle differently. Everyone had spent months asking what was wrong with Dominic Hale. Naomi was beginning to wonder whether they had been asking about the wrong thing. The question stayed with Evelyn long after Naomi returned to her work. For months, everyone had treated Dominic's exhaustion as if the answer had to be hidden somewhere inside the man himself. His schedule had been adjusted. His evening meetings had been shortened. Dr. Keller had reviewed his routines repeatedly. Yet nobody had seriously considered why Dominic could fall asleep on a leather sofa in morning sunlight, but struggle inside a bedroom designed for perfect rest. Naomi did not pretend she knew the answer. She simply started paying attention. 2 mornings later, she entered Dominic's bedroom with fresh linens and found the bed empty. The sheets were twisted toward one side, but the pillows looked almost untouched. She stripped the bedding, opened the curtains, and carried everything toward the laundry cart. As she passed the mattress, something caught her eye. She stopped. The mattress had been described by Evelyn as custom-made, an expensive replacement Victor Shaw had personally arranged several months earlier. Naomi had handled premium bedding for 6 years in Manhattan. She was not an expert in manufacturing, but luxury hotels taught housekeepers to recognize construction quality because damaged seams, loose piping, and missing labels had to be reported. She bent slightly and examined the lower edge. The stitching near one corner was uneven. Most of the seam used tight, evenly spaced white thread. A section roughly 8 inches long used thread with a faint gray cast and wider spacing. Naomi ran her eyes along the fabric without touching it. Near the bottom was a rectangular discoloration where a label appeared to have once been attached. Evelyn entered carrying pillow protectors. "You found something?" Naomi straightened. "Maybe." Evelyn came closer. Naomi pointed. "Was this mattress repaired?" "Not that I know of." "Was it here when you started?" Evelyn shook her head. "No. Victor ordered it after Mr. Hale's sleep became worse." "How long ago?" "About 4 months." Naomi looked at the seam again. "Do you know the manufacturer?" "The invoice should be in household records." Before Naomi could answer, a voice came from the doorway. Is there a problem? Victor Shaw stood there in a navy suit, silver at his temples, his expression polite but impatient. Evelyn explained that Naomi had noticed unusual stitching. Victor glanced at the mattress and gave a small laugh. We paid nearly $20,000 for that bed. Naomi looked at him. The price does not change the seam. His smile disappeared slightly. You have been here, what, 7 days? 9. Then perhaps you should spend more time learning how this house operates before questioning purchases made before you arrived. Evelyn stiffened. Naomi remained calm. I am not questioning the purchase. I am asking whether this is the mattress that was purchased. Victor stared at her for a beat. It is. Then there should be a manufacturer label. Custom products are different. Sometimes. Naomi looked again at the pale rectangle. But something was attached here. Victor stepped into the room. Mr. Hale has had enough people inventing theories about why he cannot sleep. He does not need another one from housekeeping. Naomi met his gaze. I have not offered a theory about his sleep. Good. I only noticed the bed. The room became quiet. Victor turned to Evelyn. Finish preparing the room. Then he left. Naomi returned to the linens, but she noticed something before the door closed. Victor had looked at the missing label before he looked at her. That evening, Dominic returned from Manhattan shortly after 10. By midnight, the library lamp was on again. At 12:40, Naomi passed the hallway with fresh towels and saw him sitting alone behind his desk, exhausted but awake. He looked up. Do you need something? No, sir. Naomi continued walking, then stopped. Dominic noticed. What? She turned back. Has anyone ever replaced your mattress since Mr. Shaw ordered it? Dominic's expression sharpened. Why would you ask me that? Naomi thought of the uneven gray thread, the missing label, and Victor's face when she pointed them out. Because I am starting to think the mattress you paid for and the mattress upstairs might not be the same one. Dominic did not answer immediately. The library clock ticked behind him while Naomi stood near the doorway, wondering whether she had finally crossed the invisible line every new employee was expected to recognize. At last, he leaned back in his chair. Victor has managed this estate for 11 years. Naomi nodded. I understand. He approved renovations, security upgrades, furniture, vehicles, almost everything that comes through these gates. Then he should know exactly what happened to the mattress. Dominic studied her face, perhaps expecting accusation or nervousness. He found neither. You really believe somebody switched it? I believe something about it deserves an explanation. That distinction seemed to matter. Dominic closed the folder on his desk. Show me tomorrow. The following morning, Naomi met him upstairs with Evelyn present. She removed the fitted sheet and pointed out the uneven stitching, the missing label, and the difference in finishing along the lower edge. Dominic listened without interrupting. When she finished, he asked one question. Can any of that prove this is not the mattress I ordered? Naomi shook her head. Not by itself. Then what does it prove? That checking would be reasonable. Dominic's expression remained unreadable. Before he could respond, Dr. Andrew Keller arrived for a scheduled visit. The physician had been monitoring Dominic's sleep for months, and when Dominic explained Naomi's concern, Dr. Keller examined the mattress without pretending it answered a medical question. A mattress can affect comfort and sleep quality, he said. But I cannot tell you that this explains everything you have experienced. Your sleep problems may have more than one factor. Naomi appreciated the answer because it was careful. She had never claimed otherwise. Victor arrived minutes later, apparently summoned by Evelyn. His irritation became obvious when he saw the bare mattress. We are still discussing this. Dominic looked at him. Apparently. Victor produced the purchase record on his tablet. The invoice listed a handcrafted mattress made to Dominic's specifications, including firmness, support layers, dimensions, and premium natural materials. The total was $19,800. There, Victor said. Exactly what I told you. Naomi looked at the invoice, then at the mattress. An invoice proves what was purchased. Victor's jaw tightened. And what exactly are you suggesting? That we verify what was delivered. Based on thread. Based on something that does not match. Victor turned toward Dominic. You have spent months dealing with an actual health issue. We should not turn housekeeping observations into an investigation. Dominic's eyes narrowed slightly. She noticed I sleep in the library. Victor paused. What? And in the car. Dominic looked toward the mattress. But almost never here. Dr. Keller folded his hands. That pattern is worth noting, although it still does not establish a cause. Dominic nodded. He understood the difference between evidence and certainty. Exhaustion had made him impatient, but it had not made him careless. Nobody opens anything today, he said. Victor relaxed almost imperceptibly. Naomi noticed. Dominic continued. Marcus will verify the purchase records, manufacturer details, and delivery history first. Victor's expression changed again. Dominic, that seems unnecessary. Then it should be easy. The room went quiet. Naomi began replacing the bedding, believing the matter was settled for the moment. That evening, however, Marcus returned with a preliminary answer. The manufacturer confirmed the original order and delivery date. The mattress had entered the estate 4 months earlier exactly as Victor claimed. But the security log contained another detail. 3 days after the official delivery, a second furniture vehicle had passed through the service gate under an authorization code belonging to Victor Shaw. There was no matching invoice explaining why it had come. Dominic read the entry twice. Then he looked toward the ceiling, toward the bedroom above them. For months, every expert had examined the exhausted man. Now, for the first time, everyone in the room was looking at the bed. By midnight, Marcus had confirmed that the unexplained furniture vehicle belonged to a regional delivery company, but the archived entry contained no description of what had entered or left the estate. Dominic sat behind his study desk reading the same security record for the 3rd time while Victor stood near the fireplace. Naomi and Evelyn remained several feet away, and Dr. Keller had stayed only because Dominic asked him to hear what Marcus found. It could have been anything, Victor said. A replacement chair, returned furniture, something for the guest wing. Marcus looked at him. Then there should be a work order. Records get misplaced. Dominic raised his eyes. Not usually when you manage them. Victor went quiet. The exhaustion in Dominic's face had not disappeared, but something sharper had replaced his earlier frustration. Naomi recognized it as the patience of a man who had stopped guessing and started waiting for facts. Marcus placed another document on the desk. The original mattress manufacturer confirmed the serial number assigned to your order. If the identification materials are still inside the construction or beneath the outer covering, we may be able to compare them. Victor immediately shook his head. You are seriously considering cutting open a $20,000 mattress because a new maid noticed uneven thread? Naomi felt Evelyn glance toward her, but she kept her eyes on Dominic. Dr. Keller spoke calmly. Whether the mattress is authentic is a property question, not a medical conclusion. Verifying it will not tell us why Dominic has had months of disrupted sleep. Exactly, Victor said. Then this is pointless. No, Naomi said quietly. Everyone looked at her. She continued. It means we should not confuse 2 different questions. Dominic leaned back slightly. Explain. Dr. Keller is asking why you cannot sleep. Mr. Cole is asking whether somebody changed something you paid for. One answer does not have to prove the other. Silence followed. Dominic looked at Dr. Keller. The physician nodded. That is correct. Victor exhaled impatiently. This is becoming absurd. Dominic stood. Then we end the argument tonight. They returned upstairs. The bedroom looked exactly as it always did. Cool, dark, immaculate, and somehow incapable of giving its owner rest. Naomi removed the comforter and fitted sheet, while Marcus photographed the mattress from several angles. Evelyn brought the original purchase specifications. Victor remained near the doorway. Dominic watched everything. Naomi examined the suspicious seam again, but did not touch it. I need your permission before I do anything, she said. Dominic looked at the mattress that had become the center of months of unanswered questions. What exactly will you do? Open several inches of this existing seam. Nothing more. If the construction matches the specifications, it can be professionally repaired. Victor stepped forward. Dominic, this is ridiculous. Dominic did not look at him. Naomi. Yes, sir. Do it. Evelyn handed her a small seam ripper from the household sewing kit. Naomi positioned herself beside the lower corner and carefully separated the first few stitches. The sound was barely audible, yet everyone seemed to hear it. She opened only enough fabric to inspect the inner edge. Then she stopped. Dominic noticed immediately. What? Naomi reached for the printed specifications Evelyn was holding. She compared the listed construction with what was visible beneath the outer cover. Her expression tightened. This says your mattress was built with hand-tufted natural wool above a layered latex support system. Dominic looked down, and Naomi gently indicated the exposed section without pulling anything out. That is not what is here. Marcus moved closer. Inside was ordinary synthetic padding surrounding a completely different internal construction. Beneath the lining, partially concealed by the altered seam, was a small product identification strip. Marcus photographed it and read the manufacturer name aloud. It was not the company on Dominic's invoice. Nobody spoke. Victor's face lost its color. Naomi stepped away from the bed and set the seam ripper on the nightstand. She did not claim she had solved Dominic's insomnia. She did not need to. She looked at the man who had spent months sleeping everywhere except this room and said only what the evidence allowed. Mr. Hale, this is not the mattress you paid for. For several seconds, nobody moved. Dominic stared at the exposed section of the mattress while the white noise machine continued its soft mechanical whisper from across the room. The difference was impossible to explain away now. The specifications in Evelyn's hands described premium natural materials and a custom internal structure, while the open seam revealed ordinary synthetic padding surrounding something entirely different. Marcus photographed the identification strip again, then entered the manufacturer name into his phone. Victor finally spoke. There has to be an explanation. Dominic looked at him. I am waiting for one. The supplier could have made a mistake. The supplier confirmed my serial number. Victor glanced toward Marcus. Then perhaps the delivery company switched it. Marcus remained calm. 3 days after the documented delivery, Victor said nothing. Naomi stepped away from the mattress and folded her hands in front of her uniform. She had already done what she needed to do. The room no longer required her opinion. It required records. Dominic seemed to understand that. Marcus, find the second vehicle. Already working on it. Evelyn, preserve every invoice connected to household purchases Victor authorized during the last 3 years. Victor's expression tightened. Dominic, you cannot seriously think I had anything to do with this. Dominic's voice stayed quiet. I think a mattress I paid $19,800 for disappeared from a house you manage, and another vehicle entered through my gate using your authorization. The silence that followed felt heavier than anger. Marcus received a message and looked down at his phone. The delivery company still has archived dispatch records. The second visit was listed as a pickup and replacement arranged through a private account. Dominic's eyes narrowed. Whose account? Marcus looked toward Victor. The contact name was Victor Shaw. Evelyn slowly lowered the papers in her hands. Victor shook his head. That does not prove what you think it proves. Then help us understand it, Dominic said. Victor looked around the room as if searching for the version of the story that might still survive. There were changes to the order. I handled them because you were traveling. The original mattress was returned. Returned for what? It was not suitable. Dominic glanced toward Naomi. And this one was. Victor's jaw tightened. You were already having trouble sleeping before any mattress arrived. Dr. Keller stepped in before the argument could blur the facts. That may be true, but it does not explain the substitution. Dominic nodded once. He appreciated precision more than reassurance. Marcus continued checking the records. Within 20 minutes, the first financial discrepancy appeared. The household account had paid the full custom price. No refund from the manufacturer appeared in the records. A separate invoice listed a much cheaper replacement under a generic furnishing category. The difference had not returned to Dominic's accounts. Victor stopped offering explanations. By 3 in the morning, Marcus had found similar irregularities involving imported lighting, custom furniture, and renovation materials. None proved the full scope yet, but together they created a pattern too large to ignore. Dominic stood beside the bedroom window as Evelyn closed the mattress cover temporarily. Months of exhaustion had taught him to distrust easy answers, and he refused to create another one now. We are not saying this caused everything, he said. Dr. Keller nodded. Correct. Dominic looked at Naomi. You understood that before anyone else in this room. Naomi shook her head. I only understood that the bed looked wrong. Everyone else was looking at me. That is because you were the one who could not sleep. Dominic almost smiled at the simplicity of her answer. And you looked somewhere else. Naomi met his tired eyes. Sometimes the thing everyone ignores is the thing worth checking. Across the room, Victor stared at the open seam that had exposed far more than cheap padding. For 11 years, he had moved through the Hale estate, as a trusted man whose decisions rarely received a second glance. Now the smallest detail in the room, noticed by the newest employee in the house, had forced every hidden number back into the light. By 8 the next morning, the Hale estate no longer felt like a house recovering from another sleepless night. It felt like a place discovering how much trust had been misplaced. Marcus had spent the hours before sunrise tracing purchase records while Evelyn gathered archived invoices from the household office. What began with one mattress expanded into a pattern stretching across nearly 4 years. Custom furniture had been billed at premium prices and replaced with cheaper alternatives. Imported lighting fixtures appeared on invoices, but not in the rooms where they were supposedly installed. Renovation materials had been charged twice under slightly different descriptions. Individually, each discrepancy might have looked like an accounting mistake. Together, they told a different story. Dominic sat at the long dining table with a cup of coffee untouched beside his hand. Victor stood across from him. Naomi remained near the doorway because Evelyn had asked her to deliver fresh coffee, but Dominic stopped her before she could leave. "Stay." Victor looked toward her. "Why?" Dominic's gaze remained on the documents. "Because she is the reason we are having this conversation." Victor gave a humorless laugh. "She is a maid." The room went still. Naomi did not flinch. She had heard those words used that way before, not as a description of work, but as a measurement of worth. Dominic slowly raised his eyes. "Exactly." Victor frowned. Dominic continued, his voice quiet. "Her job requires her to notice what other people overlook. The difference is that you assumed nobody would listen when she did." Victor's face tightened. "You are going to take her word over mine after 11 years? "No." Dominic pushed the invoices across the table. "I am taking records over your word." Marcus placed another folder beside them. The original mattress manufacturer had confirmed that Dominic's custom mattress was collected 3 days after delivery. The return had been authorized through Victor, but the manufacturer had never received it back. Instead, the delivery contractor's records showed it had been redirected to a private storage facility. Marcus had also found payments from several household vendors routed through consulting accounts connected to Victor. The full amount remained uncertain, and Dominic refused to guess. "My attorneys and accountants will determine what happened next," he said. Victor stared at him. "After everything I have done for you?" Dominic's expression did not change. "That is precisely why this lasted so long. I trusted you enough to stop looking." Victor turned toward Naomi. "And now this entire situation exists because she could not mind her own business." Naomi met his eyes. "The bed was my business. I was changing the sheets." Evelyn lowered her gaze, hiding the beginning of a smile. Even Marcus looked away for a moment. Dominic did not smile. He was studying Victor with the cold disappointment reserved for betrayals that no longer required anger. "You are finished here," he said. "Marcus will arrange for you to leave the property. Any further questions will go through the appropriate legal and financial professionals." There was no shouting, no threat, no dramatic display of power. Victor looked around the dining room as though waiting for someone to defend him, but nobody did. Minutes later, he walked out with Marcus beside him. The doors closed quietly. Dominic remained seated. Naomi began gathering the coffee service. "Naomi." She stopped. "Yes, sir?" "Why did you keep pushing after he dismissed you?" She considered the question. "Because being new did not make the stitching disappear." Dominic looked at her for several seconds. "I dismissed the wrong people for too long." Naomi held his gaze, then stopped dismissing them. Evelyn froze. Nobody spoke to Dominic Hale that plainly. But Dominic did not become angry. He looked toward the staircase leading to the bedroom, then back at the black woman whose attention to one crooked seam had exposed years of deception. Slowly he nodded. "Fair enough." Naomi picked up the coffee tray and walked toward the door. Behind her, Dominic finally lifted his cup, then paused when he realized the coffee had gone cold. For the first time in months, however, exhaustion was no longer the only thing keeping him awake. The truth was, the replacement mattress did not arrive with promises. Dominic made certain of that. Before anything entered his bedroom, Marcus verified the manufacturer, serial number, delivery documents, and specifications independently, while Evelyn watched the installation from beginning to end. Dr. Keller remained equally careful when Dominic asked the question everyone in the house was thinking. "If the old mattress was wrong, does that mean I sleep tonight?" Dr. Keller shook his head. "It means you removed one possible source of discomfort." Months of disrupted sleep do not necessarily disappear in one night. Keep the routine we established, and we watch what happens. Dominic accepted the answer because it offered no miracle. By 9 that evening, the mansion had settled into its familiar quiet. Naomi finished checking the upstairs linens and found Dominic standing outside his bedroom, staring through the open doorway. The new mattress had been made with fresh white sheets, nothing more. No collection of experimental pillows. No unnecessary additions. Just a bed. "Are you inspecting my mattress again?" he asked without turning. Naomi stopped beside the housekeeping cart. "Only if you are planning to pay $20,000 for the wrong one twice." Dominic looked at her, and for a second she wondered whether she had gone too far. Then the corner of his mouth moved. "I walked into that." "Yes, sir." His expression became thoughtful. "Evelyn told me you refused the bonus." Naomi had been offered a substantial payment that afternoon for identifying the discrepancy. "I did." "Why?" "Because I did my job. Most people would have taken it. Most people can make their own decision." Dominic studied her. "You always answer questions this directly?" "Only when someone asks them directly." He looked back into the bedroom. "Then answer one more. What should I have done differently?" Naomi understood that he was no longer asking about the mattress. "Listen sooner." Dominic nodded slowly. "To you?" "To everyone who works here." The answer landed harder than flattery ever could. For years, Dominic had believed good leadership meant choosing capable people and trusting them to handle details he had no time to examine. Victor had turned that trust into invisibility. Naomi had shown him the difference between delegation and indifference. The following morning, Dominic gathered the senior household staff in the dining room. He did not tell them to become suspicious of one another. He changed something simpler. Purchases above a set amount would require independent verification. Staff could report discrepancies directly without going through the person responsible for the original purchase. Housekeeping, maintenance, kitchen, and grounds employees would be included in monthly operations meetings because they were often the first people to notice when something did not match. Naomi stood near the back as Dominic explained the changes. Nobody applauded. That was not how the Hale estate worked. But several employees exchanged looks that told her the message had been understood. Later, Evelyn found Naomi in the linen room. "He asked me to review your employment file." Naomi looked up. "Why?" "He wants to know whether you would consider training new housekeeping staff when we hire them." Naomi smiled faintly. "That sounds like more work." "It comes with more pay." "That sounds better." That evening, Dominic passed Naomi in the hallway shortly before 11. He looked tired, but for once he was walking toward his bedroom instead of away from it. "Good night, Miss Bennett." Naomi paused. It was the first time he had addressed her by her last name instead of simply calling her Naomi. A small change, perhaps, but she understood what it meant. "Good night, Mr. Hale." He entered the room and closed the door. Downstairs, the library remained dark. Midnight passed, then 1 in the morning, then 2. For the first time since Naomi had entered the Hale estate, no light appeared beneath the library door. At 7 the next morning, Dominic Hale's breakfast tray remained untouched in the kitchen. Evelyn noticed first. For months, Dominic had usually requested coffee before sunrise, and on his worst mornings the kitchen staff heard from him while the rest of the estate was still dark. At 7:15, there was still no request. At 7:30, Evelyn checked the household phone twice. Naomi entered the service pantry carrying fresh towels and found her staring at the silent screen. "Something wrong?" Naomi asked. "Mr. Hale has not called." Naomi looked toward the ceiling. "Maybe that is a good thing." Evelyn wanted to believe her. At 8, Marcus crossed the entry hall and asked whether Dominic had come downstairs. He had not. By 8:30, the mansion had developed a strange kind of quiet. Nobody said they were worried, but everyone seemed to find a reason to pass near the main staircase. Naomi continued working. She replaced towels in the guest suite, checked the linen inventory, and reviewed the training schedule Evelyn had given her the previous afternoon. At 8:55, she entered the dining room and noticed Dominic's place had not been set. "Leave it," Evelyn said from the doorway. Naomi looked at her. Evelyn smiled cautiously. "Let him sleep." At 9:06, footsteps finally sounded. Upstairs, every employee within hearing distance seemed to become still without admitting it. Dominic appeared at the top of the staircase wearing dark trousers and a white dress shirt with the cuffs still unbuttoned. His hair was slightly disordered, and for once the tiredness in his face looked ordinary rather than crushing. He descended several steps before noticing Naomi and Evelyn below. "What time is it?" Naomi glanced at the clock. 9 past 9. Dominic stopped. His eyes moved toward the clock as though he suspected it of lying. "In the morning?" Evelyn almost laughed. "Yes, sir." Dominic stood there for another second, calculating backward. He had gone to bed shortly before 11:30. He remembered waking once during the night, turning over, and then nothing until sunlight reached the edge of the curtains. More than 9 hours had passed. Dr. Keller's warning returned immediately. One good night did not prove a cure. Months of disrupted sleep could not be reduced to one mattress, and Dominic knew better than to pretend otherwise. But something had changed. He had remained in that bedroom. He had rested there longer than he had in months. Naomi watched him reach the bottom of the stairs. "How do you feel?" Evelyn asked. Dominic considered it. Confused. Naomi smiled. "That sounds better than exhausted." He looked at her. Marginally. Breakfast was served 20 minutes later. Dominic actually ate it instead of pushing food around while reading reports. Marcus arrived with an update from the accountants. The review of Victor's transactions would continue, and the matter would remain with the appropriate legal and financial professionals. Dominic listened, gave instructions, and then did something Marcus had rarely seen him do. He told him the rest could wait until after breakfast. Over the following weeks, Dominic's sleep did not become perfect. Some nights were still difficult. Dr. Keller continued monitoring him, and Dominic kept the healthier routine they had established. But the pattern improved. The library stopped glowing at 3 in the morning. Cold coffee stopped appearing beside the sofa at sunrise, and the household stopped treating exhaustion as an unavoidable part of Dominic Hale. Naomi's role changed too. She began training new housekeeping employees and attending monthly operations meetings, not because Dominic had rescued her from anything, but because someone had finally recognized the value of what she already knew how to do. One morning, several weeks later, Dominic passed her in the upstairs hallway while she inspected a delivery checklist. He stopped. "Ms. Bennett." "Mr. Hale." He glanced at the papers in her hands. "Checking the labels?" Naomi raised an eyebrow. "Every single one." Dominic smiled. "Good." He started walking away, then paused. "And Naomi?" She looked up. "Thank you." She understood that he was not thanking her only for a mattress. "You listened," she said. "Eventually." "Then keep doing that." Dominic nodded and continued down the hallway. Naomi returned to her checklist. In a house built around power, money, and people accustomed to being obeyed, the person who changed everything had been the one everyone expected simply to change the sheets.